Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at an relatively unusual hinge in the sense of it being not super common, but this is a 6x6 heavyweight hinge by PBB, a company that takes hinges very seriously. It's what they do, and I think it's all that they do. They do a good job of it as well. This is a 6x6 heavyweight steel-based hinge in an oil-rubbed type finish. Let's cut it out of the packaging. Let's take a closer look. So this client ordered these from me because he has 3-inch thick doors. And it's big. This is way bigger than a standard hinge. This is going to be... Okay, it is a steel-based hinge. I wanted to be sure of that before I went any further. That's what it looks like. They're heavy. They weigh... They're very heavy. They weigh almost 3 pounds each. And that's what the oil-rubbed bronze is going to look like. Okay. This client has 3-inch thick doors. The heavyweight was not something that was specified. The 3-inch thickness was specified, and 6x6 was the size the client requested, which will certainly work on a 3-inch thick door. You know, the size of a hinge that you're going to use is going to be a confluence of obviously how thick is the door, but how much of the hinge do you want to project off of the door itself? Meaning how much hardware do you want to be having projecting off the face of the door? Meaning, you know, if we were to stop our tape measure about here, so that's the only thing that's projecting, you're going to have about 2 1/4 mortise depth. The rest is going to be the back set, that 3/4 inch of what won't be mortised on the door. A 3-inch door can even take a larger hinge as well. You know, could you fit an 8-inch wide hinge on it? You certainly could. Your projection of the hardware would be coming off a bit. I've got a table that tells me a hinge like this would be able to handle a door weight of up to 300 pounds or thereabouts. So very heavy. So this client has a very thick door and has a lot of volume on the door. So that told me not only we needed something wide for the door thickness, but we wanted something high, tall, for the application. This is the front of what will end up being an incredibly busy restaurant. This door is going to get cycled hundreds, if not thousands of times a day. The height is where the hinge gets its substantial ability to swing a heavy door, to make that move lots of times without failure. 1 3/4 thick doors generally have 4.5-inch tall hinges on them, and 4.5 wide, because 4.5 is the right size. But if you were to increase that to a 5-inch tall hinge but maintain the 4.5, you get something in the, I forget the exact number, but you might get 30 or 40% more ability to handle that door just because of that additional 1/2 inch in height. So this client's application pushed us right to this stock hinge from PBB. Yes, they keep this in stock. This is ready to ship. So let's dissect the part number. The 4 in the part number tells us that the hinge is heavyweight. A 6x6 hinge from PBB is going to be 200 thousandths thick, I think. Yeah, the template that's below this video tells us it's 200 thousandths. My caliper tells me it's 0.204. 0.204, so 200 thousandths. The B in the part number means it's going to be ball bearing. 4 bearing packets when it's a heavyweight hinge. A heavyweight's 200 thousandths. The 8 tells me that it's made of steel. The 81 tells me it's a steel full mortise hinge. Full mortise, you can see from the swag on the hinge leafs there that when they're brought parallel, They're meant to be mortised flush to the edge of the door and frame, so you have that margin between the door and frame. Okay. This is the standardized template pattern for a 6-inch hinge. This, what some people will call a zigzag pattern, I would call it the template pattern for a 6-inch hinge. Every hinge size, every hinge height has a pattern that is considered template or standard. That link below this video to the template will allow you to review those dimensions so that if you are replacing existing, you'll know up front what you're dealing with in terms of the hole locations for the screws for this hinge. And speaking of screws, you'll get machine and wood screws. What's nice about PBB is they tell you you're getting AMS, AWS, all machine screws, all wood screws. So you ought to have 10 of each screw in that package. And when I counted them earlier, you definitely had 10 of each. Not really familiar with any machine threaded applications for a 6-inch tall hinge, but it would not be impossible to have a 6 by 4.5 on an outrageously heavy door, wider than 3 foot. It's not out of the realm of possibility, and that's certainly why they include that material. So the rest of the template will give you the other dimensional properties, such as the swag line, which is nice to know. And as I'm staring at this, the S dimension for the swag line and the leaf length they're not doing a real good job at telling us what those sizes are, or I'm missing it. They have 3 different sizes listed on the template. They have 4.5 widths, 3 different widths. They have 4.5, they have 5-inch, and then they have 6-inch. This being a 6-inch hinge, yeah, so there are 3 rows. Think of it as 4.5, then 5, then 6. This swag line, because this is a 6-inch, is indeed 2.55 inch. The different columns that they have there, you'll notice how the 8 in the part number changes. 8 means steel, 5 means stainless, 2 means brass, bronze base material. That's the only difference. You'll see that the B can change to a C. They're both ball bearing, but the C are concealed bearing, where you're not going to see these bearing packets. Less common than ball bearing, concealed bearing are, but they are certainly more aesthetically pleasing. You don't see the bearing packets whatsoever. Okay. The rest of the details are dimensionally around that template for you to review. So if you're looking at this hinge, you are probably looking for, if you're going to buy a 6-inch wide hinge, you've got to have a thick door. You're not going to have any way to get this installed on a 1 3/4 thick door. Well, I mean, I guess that's not strictly true, because those screw holes are only getting you to about 1 1/4 inches. But if you were to seriously want that much projecting hardware off the face of the door, you could make that work. You might do that if you were trying to treat this as a wide throw type hinge, meaning you had a little extra casing that you wanted to move the vertical axis of pivoting out further. I suppose you could cheat that out. No, yeah, I don't suppose you can cheat that out. But that would be atypical, but you could do it. So could you force this onto an 1 3/4 door? You could. You're going to have a lot of the hinge hanging out is the point. That might be unintentional, or it might be exactly what you want. But that template will allow you to determine that. Okay. Again, you're probably going to be able to tool around on a 300-pound door with such a thing, so be mindful of that. Really, when you're getting into such heavy doors, pivots are without a doubt the better way to go because of how they bear the weight. All the weight's actually being carried by the earth itself, not on a hinge which will wear with time on a frame that all that door wants to do is pull that frame to the center. So pivots are a better choice. It's just, you know, there are times when hinges are what's being used, and that's what's going to be used. We see large hinges like this all the time. They're not uncommon. And like I said earlier, they're common to the point where the manufacturer even stocks the material. This particular hinge, they have a couple different variants of this in stock in a 6x6. Now, the rest of the information down below covers everything we've discussed. Nothing else new. And I will end this video by saying there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the PBB products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Now, I'm very partial to PBB because of their incredibly no-nonsense approach to hinges. If I'm not sure if they have it in stock, all I need to do is call over there, and the person who picks up the phone answers the question, and they do it within seconds. That's really appreciated. The command of the product by the person who answers the phone is exceptional. I've had email dialogue with the possibly part of ownership or technical department head there who possesses, in my exposure to this person on a prior matter, possesses a technical understanding of the process of hinge finishing and by extension hinge manufacturing beyond anyone I've ever spoken to. I only wish I had more opportunity to do PBB, and I've asked them in the past for a list of those items that they generally keep in stock. They're unable to supply that. I wish they would somehow supply that so that I was able to better fulfill my customers' needs right on the spot without having to call to say, hey, do you stock a 6x6 heavyweight steel-based in an oil rubbed? If I knew generally what was considered stock, I could make that happen quickly. I would benefit. Most importantly, the end user or the contractor would benefit because the hinges are on the way. That's the important part. If you have any questions on the PBB 4B81 in a 6x6 and a 640 finish, 640 means two things. It means oil rubbed, but it also means steel base. If this was a solid bronze hinge, that would be a 4B21 613 is what that would be. Anyway, feel free to give us a call. We'll be happy to sort out the nuances of finish codes for you at any time. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.